Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Okay, thank you very much for coming to this very important topic that a lot of people are interested in. We were just joking that we think that most people are already at the bar, and by show of hands, should we also go to the bar to do the panel? Quick one? Yeah, okay, Brian. Yep, okay, great. No, I'm Sharon Taylor. I am Chief Revenue Officer of Triton Digital, and today we're going to talk about brand suitability and contextual targeting. Intros?
Hello, I'm Alanna Vaughns, and I work for BBC Studios. I manage our ad tech and ad sales third-party relationships, and yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Oon, head of sales at DAX. Been here for 5 months, so I'm a bit of the newbie on the team. Prior to this, I was at Paramount, and before that, Spotify and Pandora, so I've spent a lot of my career in audio, and very excited to be here.
So it's going to be a good panel. First of all, what I normally like to do is start by just a show of hands. We'll somehow pick you all out in the throng of people. Podcasters, independents or networks, anyone? Buyers or advertisers? Technology platforms? Okay, all right. So a bit of a mixed bag, and other people that I missed out, but welcome. We'll try and keep this tailored to what it is that you'd like to talk about, like with the contextual targeting, of our contextual targeting panel. So today we're going to try and answer, like, how can advertisers maximize reach while using these kind of new up-and-coming tools? Another last one, I promise, guys. Another show of hands. When I say brand suitability and contextual targeting, understand, like, have heard of it before and like, okay, a little bit? All right. So maybe what we'll start with is probably what that means to each of you. So in terms of like how you're thinking about brand suitability, you've been in the space for a long time in different roles. What does it mean now? How would you explain it to like an audience? Jen?
Yeah, so when I think about brand suitability, I've spent a lot of my time and my career on sales, so I'm working a lot with different brands. And for them, it's being around content that they feel comfortable with, and also where they know that their target audience is. So being able to be in those environments where their message will be received the most clearly and will have the most resonance.
From your side of you?
Yeah, I think at the BBC, we have a lot of news content, and I think the word reassurance is probably a big one when it comes to being able to layer on contextual targeting. Just making sure that basically advertisers understand that they're sitting within really prime content, and just because we're talking about something difficult doesn't necessarily mean that you can't actually, be a strong presence in our shows. And so that's ultimately what we're able to give with the contextual targeting, is that reassurance that you're not next to this topic or that topic.
A lot of people, the joy of podcasting is that we're so intentional, right? Like as a show or as an advertiser, you really got to kind of say, okay, well, I know my audience and my show the best. And so, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, you should give me your money to run on my content because I can guarantee that you can trust me because it is a trusted environment. Right? And so it's only really recently that a lot of large players in the brand suitability space, so like the Comscores, the Oracles, etc., have kind of seen that there's this massive burgeoning audience that's growing pretty quickly. Do you think, Jen, that it's that they are wanting to take a slice of that audience, or do you think that it's to bring new advertisers into the space that are used to being able to get those kind of tools in digital and out of home elsewhere that are now coming in?
Yeah, what's interesting is that when I've worked with so many different brands, when I talk about brand suitability, they'll come back to me with a lot of different definitions. So that ends up being maybe the first challenge, is tackling what exactly do they find to be brand suitable. So, having seen just how much podcast has become really popular, in sales, we're very excited. Like, we want them to be able to take advantage. But we make a lot of assumptions where we're like, oh, they probably don't want to be around these things. And we're not asking them themselves to give us those answers, to help us define that. So I think it's helping them find those audiences, but also making sure we understand what their brand profile is. Like, some brands are okay with true crime, but we didn't know that because we were just doing a blank slate of, okay, no news, no crime, no politics, no these other things. So I think the main thing is that having those conversations where we're asking those questions up front and letting them lead us, right? I had a point where we were working with Procter & Gamble and they were really interested in podcasts. And we just assumed, oh, you're trying to, promote really diapers. Maybe you don't want to be around true crime because people are being murdered. And
This is such a good joke about being scared shitless that I really want to make, but keep going.
So, but we found out from them, we're like, no, actually, we know that's where moms are. We know moms are spending a lot of time listening to that stuff because moms, we're paranoid all the time. So we're trying to foresee every horrible thing that could ever happen to us. So we want to listen to every true crime story so we can pick up those, red flags or those clues beforehand. And we were limiting their scale on our own because we were just trying to be overly protective for them. So I think going on that discovery process and that discovery journey with them is so important to identify, like, who actually are you trying to reach? Is it all moms, or is it moms and only in specific scenarios and specific topics?
And in true crime, like some of the technology, like if you're just doing a category exclusion or a category buy, then you either know you want to be around true crime or you want to completely avoid it. At an episodic level, and by using some of these technologies, you could actually say, okay, I just don't want to be around episodes that are really talking about blood and gore, but investigative true crime, or like how to, like I do want to be around, for instance.
Or documentary style, not everything that's currently categorized that way, and it's really, can we double click in that category? So even for news, right? We used to blanket no news at all, but that includes sports news, that includes automotive news, that includes a lot of different types of news. If it's political news, great, we should really just check that one off, because otherwise our scale was so impacted by kind of doing these blanket blocks and bans on specific categories.
Makes sense. From the publisher point of view, like the BBC has a ton of different content, like heaps and heaps of news. Are you true crime as well?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And so how do you see this from the podcaster's point of view? Because the beauty of podcasting is it's quite intentional. Like it's brand suitability and brand safety, like is because you're in like a large environment and you might like go past a billboard or you might like hear something on the TV. It's really hard to just stumble upon a podcast, like it's not like it's just out there in the open. And so I would always make the argument that the audience is valuably giving you their time and choosing. And so any advertiser that is on those shows, that's a match. But how do you kind of balance that with the need of advertisers that are coming in saying, if you can't give me like category exclusions or keywords, like what's that conversation like?
I think, and we had talked about this before, that really it's always been about curation, right? Like even before we had this technology in our hands, it was always about understanding what the brand needs. I mean, there's as many definitions of brand suitability as there are brands, is basically what you were just talking about. And I think you just have to respect that, right? And try and figure out what is the best plan we can do to reach these audiences, because ultimately you're trying to reach people. So we can talk about what we don't want, but what we do want are the people with the ears. And so we can get to that together if we understand what you need. We also have our own sense of what we want to sit next to our own brand as the BBC. That's really important to us too. So I think it's just understanding that and being able to just have that conversation, like we could move quickly, but let's slow down for this part to understand what you really need, and we'll get you there.
And how much on your day-to-day jobs is going into like education in terms of explaining what like medium risk or like, it is news, but it's not, news that you're worried about. Like, is that taking up like a third, a half? Like how you're nodding, it seems like a lot.
It's a lot of time. There's a lot of education, right? I think everyone wants the quick checkbox, but it's not that easy, right? You can say, I want my campaign to be 100% brand safe. Well, we have to work together to really understand what are those definitions and be able to tailor it that way. And sometimes we won't get it right every time. Sometimes we have to test it and see what comes back. And, at DAX, we have this transparent reporting. We can see exactly every impression and what show it ran on, what's resonating. And we have to have brands who are willing to learn with us and test with us, right? Like there is no quick fix. But we now have more technology than we've ever had before for brand safety. The way we were doing brand safety in the past was just doing title by title and hoping and praying those hosts didn't go off the rails one day and say something crazy, right? Because that's what makes the news. Now we have technology where there's creator analysis, and it can actually take a look at thousands of resources, news resources, to make sure those lists of hosts have not said anything crazy in the last year or so that there's some assurance for the brand. Hey, we have made sure that we've met your brand guidelines, and we're aligning with creators that really are great for your branding. But yeah, it's been taking some time.
And there's so many different platforms that are out there, lots of which have been built specifically for podcasting, a lot of them that are kind of being retrofit into the space. It's there's one very large company out there that sees your website URL in the RSS feed, and then it understands how to go to a website and read the information on the website, and then it's scoring it based on what content is on your website, which is wildly different to at an episodic view. And so there's a lot of, I think, false positives, false negatives, etc. in the space. One thing I'd like to do is kind of all of us open up our tech a little bit so that you as podcast networks and you as the buyers can go, okay, well now I understand what medium, low, etc. is. Is that a helpful thing to education? Is that more confusion?
I think it's helpful because we need some sort of guidepost. We have to start somewhere. And I feel like that's the bridge. When we are doing the high, medium, low, we have something to work off of, right? And that's what we can test off of to really see if we're finding success. But yeah, it takes time. Everything that's been happening in podcasts, I would say over the last 5 to 6 years, there is this really trying to bring the marketplace with us and for buyers to be comfortable with it, because let's be real, it's more work for the buyers. They have to adjust. They can't buy the way that they always have. And this technology and this new transparency, it challenges that comfort that we've all had where they always used to buy this way. And now we're actually, when we see the transparency reporting, what you've been doing before has actually not been working.
Alanna, from your point of view with advertisers that you've had for, donkey's years, which I think might be an Australian saying, but you've had for a long time, have you seen that their requests are changing because of this? Are they starting to ask for this technology, or is it more newcomers into the space?
Yeah, we're definitely getting asks for it. But I think also, and it's just interesting to hear your take on the education piece, because for us, it doesn't tend to be as technical, which I guess makes sense because we're not dealing with the same scale that you guys are. But it's more about the public media story that we actually get to tell, right? It's actually an opportunity to be able to talk about our journalism and how much work gets put into making sure that we are telling the truth, that things are compliant, that we're doing the best we can to bring the stories to you, and that means that no one is saying anything absolutely nuts on our podcast. So that's not something you necessarily have to be concerned about, but obviously the news is tough. Yeah, I'm kind of forgetting what the question was, but
me too. Do you think though? Okay, so but it's also an opportunity. That's a good word that you use. Yeah. The opportunity for advertisers to kind of enter the space and understand a bit more, and it might not be excluding content, but it could be opening up new opportunities to them to hit specific target that they want. Is that an angle that you're exploring as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's just don't cut out people who are coming to our content with ears wide open. They're here because they want to learn, they want to know about stuff. And also, they're consumers. They have money to spend. They like certain things. So no need to cut this audience out. But we can certainly think, again, that word curation, curate that experience of what kind of stories you're sitting next to. Yeah.
The challenge is that, so the IAB brand suitability spec is what we all kind of use to say, there's a dirty dozen of, is it obscenity, is it hate speech, terrorism, etc. And then you get a low, medium, high, floor, and no risk. The challenge is like in spoken word, because some of our content is so rich and like so long, it can really throw up some interesting things. Office Ladies is a wildly popular podcast, and they talk about shows like entertainment, and on a pure model basis, they would flag medium for death injury because they talk about like beheading in Game of Thrones. And that is a great show that deserves to be bought by advertisers. And so I think that some of it is not purpose-built for podcasting. And so like that goes back into the education piece. Yeah. But when you have a brand, are you kind of saying, well, for comedy shows, you really want to be at like a different tolerance? Or are they really set on, no, it's medium or nothing? Like, how do we do that as an industry?
Yeah, I think it's putting yourself in the shoes of the consumer and also the buyer. So I think we talked about this in one of our prep calls, but like, sorry to bring it back to moms. I'm a mom. So
who's learning how to murder people by listening to true crime?
Yes,
content.
and how to prevent murder. You know, all the things,
Or prevent murder.
Life skills. But you know, when we're working with clients, they're like, I just want to be in podcasts. I want to target moms, and I want to target parenting podcasts. Only when moms are talking about being a mom. And I'm like, hello guys, I'm a mom. I don't want to listen to that. Actually, that will stress me out. Like, I don't need to think about that. I have enough things on my mind about being a parent and all the things I should be afraid about for my kids. I'm actually going to be listening to a lot of other things. So it is broadening their scope of who is their audience. Can we actually learn and get some insights on their behaviors? Actually, this was revealed on a previous panel that Brian was on. But for example, folks who are news junkies, who are listening to so many news podcasts, they are actually very high household income. They're well educated, but they don't listen to sports or entertainment. So if you're not reaching them when they're at news, you're actually not reaching them at all in what you would say is mainstream listening with sports and entertainment. And it's just educating and learning more, like, who is your audience? Let's not be so on the nose, like it must be this particular person. You're never going to get your message if your goal is to drive awareness. How are you going to do that if we're only targeting like a pretty small slice of the pie?
Is it a naive question from me? And you can say yes, Australian, very hard to offend. Is it a naive question to say, like, if someone was advertising on TV in a news show, like, is it this stringent? Like, is podcasting held to a different standard that you've seen in other mediums?
I think digital in general, we're held to a higher standard because we've always had so much transparent reporting. And it's unfortunate, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And we are doing that, right? Because we have given advertisers, really, and in media, like so many levers to slice and dice. Because I don't know anyone that's been really that upset when they watched, say, an A&E show, which is sometimes true crime, and they saw a commercial. Have they ever called up that advertiser and been, how dare you?
I bet you they
How
have.
dare you be on this show about, you know, a documentary murder or whatever it was. But we put so much focus on digital. I'm not sure why. I think it's really because there is so much more at our disposal. But we have kind of created a monster because now there's so much more really onus on us to be so particular on what we're next to.
I would say, as a listener, I'm happy with it. Let's be difficult, because I want my podcast is great. I want the ads to be great. So I'm like, let's just keep going with that difficult stuff, and but let's make a process out of it. Let's make some technology out of it. Let's be able to do it well, and make those conversations with buyers more nuanced, and help guide them through that whole discussion. But it matters to the content that it matters to me because it's BBC content. So I want some good ads.
Yeah. The higher standard.
Yeah.
I think we'd all like good ads. I think in true crime podcasts, there's a real gap in the market for actual like rope ads or like bleach or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you see we could get contextually targeted to that level? That would be great.
We could. And
should we?
Right. You could be tongue-in-cheek about it, right? Acknowledge the audience that you're speaking to, acknowledge the content you're around. And at the end of the day, all the best ads are entertaining. Like, make sure you have some sort of sense of humor and you also understand who you're speaking to, where they're going to relate to it. And they might get a good chuckle, but those are the ones that are usually the most resonant and the most engaging.
I mean, our industry is built on live reads. One of the most famous live reads was Bill Burr doing a thing called Sherry's Berries. Treat yourself, look it up on YouTube. And he goes on like a 10-minute rant about this like live read and this berry company. And it probably would get scored pretty badly by like brand suitability things. But like it worked so well and it resonated so well with his audience. And so, you know, there is a concern that these kind of tools might be like cutting out revenue, especially if we are using them in programmatic like at scale. Like it's less about the live read and it's more about making sure that, you know, if they've got keyword block lists, which is really hard to do in like a 2-hour podcast or, you know, the spoken word in general. And so do you think it's going to evolve over time? Like, do you think that the benefit that these tools bring of getting more advertisers into the space is worth that risk of like inadvertently cutting out some revenue on the way through? It's a very yes/no question, not to put you in a corner.
I mean, if it's inviting more brands in, then that's what we've always wanted as an industry, and yeah, it's worth it.
I think in the end, it's going to open up more revenue for creators because what we used to do is title by title, and now we're going more audience-based reach. And so, you know, they're going to want brands that make sense for their audience. So I don't think they want to be in the business of tricking an advertiser on being on their show by accident when it's not a good fit for either of them, right? It's not good for the listener and it's not good for the advertiser. So I think with that technology, it is great. I have been seeing that there's also a level of human analysis. So there's AI and then there's also a double check on human analysis because there's only so much tonality that AI can pick up. And the context, like you need some human eyes on it. So I think having the combination of both and being able to inform the AI to be smarter, that's going to help us. And it's not going to be detrimental to the business of cutting out revenue for creators or cutting out really scale for advertisers. So I think we're actually going to see it get better. That's kind of my take.
Feels like refinement and like an industry that's continuing to grow up and get better at, you know, serving everyone who's involved.
We might throw to questions in a couple of minutes. So if you've got one that is burning a hole in your pocket, that's not what questions are kept. But like if you've got one, let know there'll be a mic kind of roving around. But like last kind of question to each of you then. Okay, so we've got a mix of people in the audience at the moment. So if there was like one takeaway as like either a podcaster or a podcast network, a content creator or an advertiser or brand to know about this kind of these tools coming into the space and like how to approach it, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
I would say if you're a podcast publisher or creator to embrace it. There's going to be a lot more scrutiny on you if you don't, because why would we not want to leverage more technology to make sure we're having the best match between brands and content? And there's a lot of different options out there. I think advertisers like it when they see that one is being chosen and one is being used and leveraged. So that would be my advice, is like to embrace it, because I think there is this feeling from the creator side is, I don't want anyone to score my episodes. I don't want anyone judging it by these GARM categories. But then again, you're taking away that level of trust from advertisers who they want to be by your audience, but it needs to be verified. So that would be my advice.
And I guess I would say embrace it and don't use it as a blunt tool. There's so much we can do with this technology, and let's use it to its full potential. Yeah.
Are there any questions? If not, we'll keep going. Yes. Yep. There's a mic coming over.
Hello.
Yeah, it's quite jarring hearing you in your ears. Yeah.
It's tied to, Jen, your comment about P&G, and I'm wondering, when they come in, are they basically just looking for you to add reach, or are they looking, because media buys can be done very targeted, less targeted, are they looking to add more data to the targeting? I'm just trying to understand how they come in to meet with you to make those decisions.
Yeah, so P&G, their goal was to find incremental audience. So knowing that podcast is where a lot more women and a lot more of their customers are spending time, they're like, we need to make sure we're reaching them there because they're reaching them at many other channels and they're investing a lot there. So they were really looking at podcasts as an incremental reach factor. And we were limiting their reach because we put all these bans on it for their brand safety. And then realizing like, oh, they actually just want to reach all moms no matter where they're spending their time. So, yep.
Anyone else? If not, I've got another question, which is like, if I was a podcaster and I was pitching you, like to, hey, buy my show, what should I be using this up front? Should I be telling you that I've got it, or should I be waiting until you ask for it?
On whether or not I would buy your show, I think it's important to include it up front because then that shows you're investing in your monetization strategy. So knowing that they have then invested in it, that to me means like, oh, you're serious. You do want to make money on your show instead of making it a secret, because I think it should be part of the standard soon of making sure that my episodes are being scored and we know right away where we can monetize. And we also know right away what is the scale of the inventory there.
And then one for you, like if I am an advertiser and I'm coming to you and I give you a 3-page list of keywords that I don't want, like what should you do to me to like maybe maneuver me where you want me to be and not like this binder of keywords? What would you say to me?
Well, I guess, yeah. If
I'll take your money.
I mean, it's what we've been talking about, that consultative mindset, and saying, hear you, and maybe we think about shifting this because we want to reach the moms, and the moms are here, and they're also over here, surprise. And so I think it's just being curious, asking questions that make them, the buyer, think a little bit differently about the list that they've put together, because they're working on a lot of different things, and we're there to help them understand us better.
And is the reporting there yet? Like once you're running these campaigns, and then are you providing the material back at the end of the day to say, look, you ran here and this is how the episode scored? Or like, is it much like pixel-based measurement where they're just using their own independent verification? Like Magellan does some independent verification. Like, are you tackling that, or are you leaving that up to the advertiser?
For us, we provide it. So as part of our normal reporting, whether it's Sounder for programmatic or Barometer for direct campaigns, we will show them exactly how they're doing, where their impressions ran, whether it met their high, medium, low risk levels that they were comfortable with. Because we want to share, like, you bought this and we want to make sure you have insight into how it actually performed. So we do.
And for you as well, like you're preparing that?
Yeah, same here. I mean, we want to be transparent. That's kind of the whole point of this, of using these tools. So yeah.
Okay, one last one then. So there are shows out there that don't know that they're being ingested by some of these platforms and then like being presented to kind of buyers, etc. So is the message there, like, should they worry about it? Like, should it just be like, hey, this is how the world is going to work for podcasting now? Like, is it better to own your own data? Or is a genie out of the bottle? Like, do you put any thought into that? Do you worry about it? Or are you just like, these tools are running, RSS is open, I'd rather be in the driver's seat? Or does it not play across your mind at all?
I don't think about that.
I think about it a lot.
I don't think about that.
Too much then.
I don't know if I understood. I think you broke my brain.
She flew from London.
Yes.
And I got in at 3 a.m. last night. And so maybe we'll call it a day. We'll meet you at the bar. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.